Hi, everyone. Marisa B here from Radiant Living. If you like what we're doing and want to keep the conversations going, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know every time we upload a video. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Marisa B here. Welcome to Radiant Living, Inspiring Humanity to Thrive. Today, I have with me the CEO and co-owner of Berlogix. She blends 25 years of tech leadership with a passion for coaching. Her own journey revealed the pivotal role of confidence in leadership success. Recognizing the widespread issue, especially among young women in tech, she honed her skills through public speaking and leadership roles. She's here today. I'd like to welcome Lisa Berry. Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Marissa. How about yourself?
Pretty good. I want to thank you so much for coming. I want to ask you, first of all, because I know you do a lot and I know you're in the corporate world. How did you get started with this role that you now, this dual role or dual hats that you're wearing now? How did it all start?
So it really all started through doing some self-reflection and again going back because I found, as many do in your life, you go back and you reflect and see where you're at and what's working, what's not working. And so over the past year and a half or 2 years, I've had that period of reflection again. And I kept feeling this tugging for me that I'm missing something. I'm not, just right where I need to be. By the same token, or at the same time, I found myself often mentoring different peers within an organization that I volunteer in and hold membership in, and then some others. And I was doing that just because I want to be helpful. But during that time of introspection, I found that there's a commonality among us. We're all, everybody's always learning and growing at our own pace, of course, but there's a commonality for the people that I kept coming in contact with, and it came back to confidence or a perceived lack or an actual lack of confidence. And so that prompted me to really start looking at myself again and seeing, okay, is that something? Maybe, I maybe have become a confident speaker and leader, but is there something, some part, some facet that's still holding me back? Because I just didn't feel right anymore. There's some things going on that was just very, very stressful for me. I didn't even realize as stressed out as I was,
Mhm.
until I finally came to the side of the mountain and kind of jumped off. And so it was there where I had this almost, revelation that, okay, why, and other people have said, well, why aren't, why don't do you do this professionally? Do you coach people? And I'm
Mhm.
like, well, I have a certification, but I do it
Mhm.
because I do it out of the kindness of my heart.
Mhm.
I don't do it for a living or anything like that. And then the opportunity presented itself. And then I started, going out and working and more with
Mhm.
individuals. And as I was building this collective, as it is, it turned into the Radiant Leaders program. And then I realized that, oh, these four things, and I'm happy to talk about that I
Mhm.
realized for myself that were barriers, blockers, and changes that I had to make, come to terms with, are the same things that other people are encountering.
Mhm.
So why not put them both together and actually help other people so that they're hopefully not experiencing what I did to the degree that I did, and not being confident and being myself, or at least help send them on, a better place on their journey or on their way to doing that. So that's really how the Radiant Leaders program that I work with and have created has started.
Well, I tell you, I've watched your program, Radiant Leaders. And first of all, I have to say, I have to applaud you, 25 years in corporate America. Oh, I think I would just jump off a building. I don't even know how anybody does, let alone women do it. It's stodgy, for lack of a better word. So it's, you have to kind of shove yourself in like a round peg in a square hole. It's very difficult, but I do watch your program, and there's a lot of things that do apply to women in general. out in the world, in contact, in any type of employment, really. So I really enjoy the program because it gives a lot of pointers. And can you tell me a little bit about that, how you work towards that, when, because I know that it's that you deal with all people, especially young women that really have no confidence or are fearful to even assert any sort of feelings of confidence. Can you give us a little information about the program itself?
Sure, absolutely. So there's four pillars. It's a foundation, and the foundation is building, uplifting confidence, and refinding our confidence if we may have lost it. And what the pillars are, as they've come to be, instead of just strategies. Within them, of course, there's strategies. But what we first and foremost look at is the first thing I say to everyone is the mission that you must take on. You have to agree to this, and before any of this will work. And that's number one, be kind to yourself. Give yourself a break. Give yourself a break. Be kind to yourself, because if you can't be kind to yourself, you're not going to allow yourself to open up and be ready for all the wonderful goodness that's out there for you. And that's the hardest thing, is to really be nice to ourselves and not beat ourselves up and say, oh, I must do this, I have to do this, I should, could, would, whatever. You do what you can each day to be the best version of you, and understand that that might not mean I functioned at the what I think is 100% today, but I got that one thing on my list that was over certainly important, done and taken care of, and then I've got some time for me. Don't feel guilty taking time for yourself. I am the epitome of somebody that did not put the mask on. If I was somebody on the plane, put my mask on first. I grew up being the self-helper, or the helper of everybody but myself, right? And that's just at a very, very young age, for whatever reason, I determined that I was going to help everybody. But what that meant was I wasn't helping me. So first and foremost, we have to accept the mission to be kind to ourselves first, and then we can start to look at, and this really, I found it true, whether you're a leader in the corporate world, whether you're a leader in a volunteer organization, whether you're a teacher, instructor, or a mom, whether you're just an individual. As my mom once said to me when I first started this program, she said, I'm following your program, and while I may not lead anybody else, I lead myself. And I said, can I use that? Because that's exactly it. Every single one of us is a leader for someone somewhere. And first and foremost, it should be for ourselves, right? So with that in mind, the next pillar comes to talking about and thinking about and being open to reflect upon your past. What are the things in my past that might be going on in my mind, right, or in my body, that are affecting how I'm functioning in the present? And sometimes those are things that are very minute, but they're carrying around with us because it's just that tried and true. It was something, somebody said something to you. For instance, for me, when I was in grade school, I was told, the kids say all kinds of nasty things to one another. You're ugly, you're fat, you wear glasses, whatever it is. But the heart that I had, the heart that I still had, was always be honest to people, be kind to people. And I thought, well, at a very young age, well, that must be true. They're saying it, right? So I started to believe it. And unfortunately, that started the road to a lack of confidence. Now, it wasn't, of course, a lack of confidence in every scenario, but it would wax and wane. And I'm sure as I've met other people, the same things start to happen. So if we can just be kind enough to ourselves to allow ourselves to reflect on those types of things. And I found some people need somebody other than me, somebody like yourself, that where they have some deeper past experiences that they need to explore. And that's okay too, because that's what we're all here for. But we'll find that if we're willing to start to unwrap and start to take a look, oh, my experience with my boss was a lot like when I was in third grade and I reacted like X, Y, or Z. And those are the things that, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but it's, wow, I made that connection, right?
Right. You're
So then
applying it
we
to
make,
everyday life. Yeah. Yeah.
right.
Applying it to
And
everyday
when we're
life.
willing to make, exactly, when we're
Mhm.
willing to make that connection,
Mhm.
then we can bring ourselves into the present and start to really feel. And I get goosebumps talking about it because you start to feel and start to look around and you do that
Yes.
360 look, right? Of what's
Right.
going on. And for
Mhm.
me to be able to really get into my present was for me to start to make that mindset shift. And for me, and what I share with everyone, it's a big mindset shift for a lot of people because it's not
Mhm.
a one and done. It's a
Oh, yes.
really
Right.
hard and steady
It
practice
is. Yeah.
of starting to look at
Mhm.
opportunities versus obstacles.
Mhm.
Because even if you're faced with something, for instance, you got fired from your job. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, it's the worst thing ever. Where will I find food? What if you were the person that was so stressed out that
Mhm.
you were on the verge of having a heart attack or a
Right.
stroke and didn't even realize it? And your children were begging for your attention,
Mhm.
but you couldn't because you were compelled to be in this job. And the
Mhm.
number one thing that was holding you back in that job was, well, what if I can't find another job? What if
Mhm.
they won't hire me? What if, and there's so many what ifs we can
Mhm.
say, but I challenge everyone to say, well, what if I like this job better?
Mhm.
And what if this one has a lot more promotion opportunity for me? What if this one lets me work from
Mhm.
home 3 days a week?
Right.
We let that fear just build up inside of us.
Mhm.
And we just unfortunately don't practice letting our adrenaline work for us. We allow it
Mhm.
to control us and work
Yes.
against us. And I'll be the first to say, I don't think it will ever go away. There's always going to be something nagging at us because we're
Mhm.
human beings. We're here in the school of life, right? The
Right.
school of being human. There's always a lesson to be learned, but if we can just try and make that positive shift to
Mhm.
see something for the lesson learned or the goodness to come, the positivity in it, instead of
Mhm.
here we are, Murphy's Law yet again.
Mhm.
Okay, maybe it's Murphy's Law and that was prone to be something that, that was going to
Mhm.
happen. We could say Murphy's Law with a smile on our face too.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, there's just a way that we can just make that shift, and you really will start to see things change for you. Things that you wouldn't believe that will happen. The opportunities
Mhm.
come. And honestly, I didn't believe it either until I really put
Yeah.
in that work, right?
Mhm.
I didn't realize how stressed I was in the corporate world and that I was just, being held back.
Mhm.
And wow, what a
And you were in
difference it
tech,
is.
you're in technology. Technology is primarily male dominated. So that's a
Exactly,
big thing.
exactly. And that was, I mean, and that in itself was stressful. Don't get
Oh.
me wrong. I worked with a lot of wonderful, talented
Mhm.
gentlemen,
Mhm.
but they, all it takes is one that
Mhm.
derail, works,
Mhm.
whether they're knowing or unknowingly to derail
Mhm.
whatever it is
Mhm.
you're doing or how you're trying to
Mhm.
perform in your role. And that's all it takes. Unfortunately, ladies, we think it's not unfortunately that we think differently. Unfortunately, that's how we're affected, some of
Mhm.
us. And so for me, I was able to just go, I'm free, right? I'm free. I'm free to make that shift and do things on my own
Mhm.
terms now when I want, how I want. And some may say, well, how can you do that? I have this problem or that problem or a challenge with money or a challenge with, my children or this or that or whatever. If we think really hard on just what's the one thing we're going to look at that we're going to change,
Mhm.
we're going to start that domino
Right.
effect because once you make the one easy change, one
Mhm.
easy iteration, then you start to feel a little more comfortable in your own skin again, right?
Mhm.
And you start to feel, oh, I'm gaining some momentum. I'm starting to feel confident or whatever it
Mhm.
is. It's just like playing a sport. You don't just
Right.
go out and say, I'm going to be a tennis player today. You're
Mhm.
you're either going to take some lessons or you're going to go on the court and watch, just hit the ball back and forth and
Right.
see what happens. Maybe you watch some YouTube videos, but over
Mhm.
time, you can
Mhm.
become proficient at playing tennis. It's the same thing with life. And
Mhm.
and so for me, that was a really big part to wrap my head around that. Wow, okay. Now, my grandfather was my biggest mentor as a child growing up. And he plays really the biggest role in addition to myself. I say he's my supporting cast, if you
Hmm.
will,
Hmm.
because I remember the things he was teaching me as a very, very young child,
Hmm.
going through the neighborhood. And one of the things I talk about often in my program is pennies. And pennies are very important to me because people will find them on the sidewalk and they walk by them. And when he taught me as a child, is you always pick the penny up. You pick that penny up and you put it in your pocket. And doesn't matter if it's heads up or heads down. And
Hmm.
unlike what some people say superstitious wise,
Right.
you pick that penny up and you pick that penny up because this life doesn't give you that many opportunities. And so you need
Hmm.
to really examine the ones that you get,
Hmm.
and you never know what that's going to bring to you, right? And I didn't realize that until, unfortunately, after he passed on,
Hmm.
that that's really what he was saying to me.
Hmm.
And so now, of course, I don't pass by any pennies. I'm always picking up the pennies. I found one from 1959 the other day. So it's
Hmm.
just, you never know what you're going to find. But the big thing was about looking at the opportunities
Hmm.
instead of the obstacles. So when we're ready to do that in our present, then when we're working that way, then we can start looking at what the future has for us,
Hmm.
what we're going to do, what we desire to do. And it's not so overwhelming to think about, well, how do I make that happen?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
What are my steps?
absolutely. That's a
Yeah,
big problem for most people, right? They can't make that leap because they're so um entrenched in the now that they can't think.
exactly.
But once
Exactly.
you start changing your way of thinking, you can look into the future. It's true.
Yeah, exactly. And you're gonna, and what your future is, and I do journal and I write things down, and what I envision for my future in 5 years from now, maybe next year it's gonna change just a little
Right.
bit, right? And I'm sure you've heard, and the audience has maybe heard of SMART goals, where they're
Hmm.
specific goals that are measured and time bound and
Hmm.
so forth. And and of course, my coach talks a lot about micro tasks. And I found those to
Hmm.
be very, very helpful as well, because then that takes a lot of that overwhelming feeling away, right? If again, starting with something small and then building on
Yes.
it. And instead of just, okay, I'm going to climb
It's
the
fun.
entire mountain today.
It's funny you say that because that's one of the points because I was recently speaking. It was a big festival for moms. And that was one of the things that I said because there was a lot of good advice and a lot of information and people get overwhelmed. But that micro steps is all you have to start with. And that
Yeah,
could be
exactly.
anything, anything
And
that's a
it's
micro step.
Yeah, and it makes it so much easier to think about
Yes.
actually the accomplishment and the sense
Mhm.
of accomplishment that's going to come once it actually
Yes.
comes to fruition,
Mhm.
right? And so that's the third pillar. And when you're in your future, you're able to think about your future because you're settled in your present, you're doing the things you want to be doing, but there's still some adjustments, some growth
Mhm.
to be had, and here we work together on how we're going to
Mhm.
accomplish that. And those micro tasks really are the
Mhm.
foundation of the building blocks, really, of that
Mhm.
foundation. And so that's the fourth pillar. But then we come back to the or third pillar. The fourth pillar really is the mission again. So it's kind of
Mhm.
you're coming 360,
Mhm.
full way around. Okay, I understood what my mission is. I've been practicing being kind to myself. I've
Mhm.
uncovered some things in my past and made some adjustments so that my present can be the best present that
Mhm.
is so that I can plan better for my future. And then I feel good again because I'm on that journey of gratitude and
Mhm.
understanding. And if I am somebody in the corporate world or wherever it is that I am a leader, I'm leading with gratitude. So I'm
Mhm.
making sure that I'm leading with grace and gratitude with those people that are on my team so that we
Mhm.
all work cohesively together. And if it's myself that I'm leading, I'm giving myself that same kind of joy and kindness and benefit of the doubt because that's how I become the best version of me. And I just feel like if we were all to just take some time to
Mhm.
really look inward and see life for what it is, for what we have to learn and
Mm-hmm.
offer and share with one another, I just feel like there would be so much more happiness and joy
Mm-hmm.
that's just spread around. And I don't mean it to sound all foo-foo and this and that, but it really is.
No, but
Positivity is very
oh, it
contagious.
works. Oh, it does.
Yes.
It does. Those are some things that I want to talk to you about because you mentioned that you have a coach yourself. I feel that you need to surround yourself with like-minded people. Why do you want to be around someone who's negative, who's chastising you all the time? That's of no value to you. You really want to be around like-minded people that will prop you up, that will
Yes.
support you. And I think that that's important. And as you said, also people that will hold you accountable, like your
Mhm.
coach, because it's one thing, right, to say, I want to change, I want to learn how to change, but you do need to check in with
Yes.
someone to
Yes.
see that you're on the right path because people do get discouraged. And especially when old patterns come back, especially the negative programming that often comes with people, that frightens them and then they retreat. If
Yes.
you certainly can't do it all on your own all the time. Often you do need support. How do you feel
Absolutely.
about that? I mean, I think that that's some of the most important reasons to have coaches and therapists and educators and mentors, because that's really, you need that ongoing support.
Yes, you absolutely do. And until as a very, very independent person, put it that way. In fact, my husband says, "You're the most professional, independent person I've ever met." That's just my persona, right? I can have a good time. I love hockey and, having
Mm-hmm.
a good time, but I could be very professional and stoic. But that also brings with it a lot of anxiety and a lot of self-driven stress because of the determination, the drive to always do. And in fact, I was just talking to my coach about this, and the change for me, so the 180 for me, I was the person that was always doing, going, working 12 to 16 hours a day, and sometimes more than 5 days a week. People all over the world that I served loved every bit of it. Don't get me wrong, loved every bit of it. But could I have found opportunities to do better self-care? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So when this change came about here over the last many months, the biggest thing I had to find was the lesson for me was slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Slow down and not just go so fast all the time and get this done and get this done. And what's the next thing? Because what I
Mm-hmm.
was doing is I wasn't enjoying life. I wasn't
Right.
enjoying, I was just doing things,
Yeah, that's what I
really,
say. I'm
but
in
I
that
wasn't
group
enjoying
too.
life.
We're the doers, not the beers.
Right.
There's
And
always doing
so
something.
now I'm practicing
Mm-hmm.
to balance the best of both.
Mm-hmm.
And so most days that means I'm not doing as much as I am being, and I'm learning to be okay with that. But the funny part about that is when you asked me about, about having a coach, yes, and that's the number one reason
Mm-hmm.
I want to have somebody in my, on my team, if you will,
Yes.
because I felt the need to say, hey, this is what I'm doing or not doing. Here's how I feel about it, but I
Mm-hmm.
want your honest input, your
Mm-hmm.
honest feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the old ways trying to creep back in?
Mm-hmm.
Or is this me just learning to relax? Right? Because that's the 5 letter word that I have a hard time with
Mm-hmm.
too, is just relaxing.
Yes.
And as I was talking about it, she said to me, "No, you're on the right track."
Mm-hmm.
I said, but the fact that you're aware, or making
Mm-hmm.
yourself aware of looking for those old patterns really is a good sign. And I
Right.
said, okay, so that makes me feel good. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a great way, for someone to be able to feel that they're moving
Yes.
forward, but moving forward at the pace that's good for them, is
Mm-hmm.
by checking in with their coach and letting them be open
Mm-hmm.
enough with them to let them give you the honest feedback. When I'm
Yes.
coaching, one of the big things I say, because my coaching style, I feel it's a little bit different than, some of the coaches I've worked with in the
Mm-hmm.
past. I'm very much a proponent of you tell me what you want to work on, what
Hmm.
you want to do, and I'm going to be your mirror, your
Hmm.
reflection. And I'm not going to provide you the solutions. I may provide you with
Right.
the questions and so forth, but I want the solutions to be the solutions that you want to come up with. And if
Hmm.
you say to me, well, it's okay for you to be very direct with me or very
Hmm.
forward and say you should do this or you shouldn't do that, that's okay. But I will
Hmm.
never ever tell
Right.
any of my clients you should do this, you must do this,
Hmm.
you have to do that, because to me that's not coaching anymore. It's not even mentoring.
Right. Right.
It's doing them a disservice. Where some people
Hmm.
feel a little differently like that for
Hmm.
that. But I found when you're honing confidence as a skill, because it is a skill
Hmm.
set, you have to be able to be comfortable with what it is you're learning, growing, doing, seeing, and
Right.
feeling. And as the individual, if you're not in concert with all of
Hmm.
those facets, it's going to work maybe a little
Right.
for a little while. But just like you said, those old feelings, those
Hmm.
old things are going to, old ways, those old
Hmm.
patterns are going to come creeping back up. And for me, I said once and for all, they're out the door.
Right.
Doesn't mean they're gone today, but they're out the door. And when they
Hmm.
try to keep coming,
Hmm.
creeping back, because they're gonna, I've
Yeah,
got
they
that
will. They
on
will.
how to
Well,
handle.
that's why people go to coaches and
Yeah,
therapists and mentors,
exactly.
because it helps them, because you know you best. And so you know the road that you have to take, even though it's difficult. And so you do want someone in your corner. That's really the reality of things, because you may slide back, especially if you're around those that are not changing and growing as you are.
Right.
So that's because that presents an issue too with people, and
Absolutely.
then you go back into that environment. And so you really need someone to be in your corner and to listen to what you are really saying. Because oftentimes,
Absolutely.
especially in corporate environment, I don't think a lot of people can necessarily, I don't know if I could last, because I may say something very incorrect and be out the door immediately. I don't know if I could keep my mouth shut. And I know that a lot of women have to,
Right.
really have to, because as you said, they're fearful because they do have other responsibilities, outside responsibilities. And so I mean, it's kind of sad
It
that you
is.
have to sometimes not say what you really want to say,
Right. And
and
it
so
does unfortunately come down in that case to gender, because there have been scenarios where I know if I was a man sitting at the
mhm,
boardroom table making the same statements, I would not have been looked upon, or the reaction to what I had to say would not have been the same.
mhm. I'm
There's no
sure.
doubt in my mind, and that's unfortunate. And
Hmm.
it's not a case of, for me, it's not a case of men versus women. I believe we're
Hmm.
all here equally to do good things. They may be different things, but we
Hmm.
all should have a hand in our own lives and what we do and say and don't do or don't say,
Hmm.
and be comfortable doing or not doing.
Hmm.
But it's still unfortunate that
Hmm.
type of mentality still exists. And unfortunately, I feel like the women, even
Hmm.
women my age, are still experiencing it, and not quite understanding. I mean, a lot of them can handle it, but I think the next generation doesn't quite understand what they're encountering all the time. And
Hmm.
so the other gripe, I guess you could say, I have is with technology, because
Hmm.
as somebody that's a tech nerd, social media is not doing what it was originally intended
hmm.
to do.
Hmm.
And so for that, I hope some way that what I'm, part of my mission helps in that regard, because
Hmm.
I hate to see the really young children growing up and not having confidence, right? We shouldn't be, everything shouldn't be, oh, let's fix my makeup on Snapchat and
Hmm.
make this photo look better because I don't look good. Every single
Hmm.
human being is a beautiful soul, every single
True.
one.
True.
And you
I
shouldn't have
just,
to look.
I wonder why the young people, I mean, is it human nature? Why the young, you would think that, well, maybe it's generational and we're evolving, but if the young people are still feeling that they have to look a certain way, and if not, and if they don't, they have to fix themselves to be looking a certain way, that's sad if we're
It,
still there,
yeah.
if we're still
And it is
there.
sad. I know of some children that are, elementary school children that are, oh, they said I look this way, and they said I look that way, and so forth. And then, then you have the texting that's just terrible, terrible
Mm-hmm,
words. And, I grew up in the era of if you can't say something nice, then, you
mm-hmm,
don't say anything at all. Not to say I never had a misstep or whatever, being
mm-hmm,
human, but I would never have, disparaged somebody, just because I have nothing better to do.
mm-hmm,
And it's sad to see that. And I've done some talks and some speeches over,
mm-hmm. Yes.
over the years to letting people know that let's pay attention to our children and lift them up because they need it. They unfortunately have those tools that are not being used in a
Mm-hmm,
positive way. I mean, there's even games that are, show the lady, and I don't know if children have access to them,
mm-hmm,
but there's games that are kind of like cartoon games, but it's,
mm-hmm,
the lady that's all disheveled and you get to decide how she looks or whatever. And if you
mm-hmm,
don't do it right, well then you lose that round or
mm-hmm.
whatever, but she looks terrible. To me, that's
Mm-hmm.
saying, okay, well, here's how a
Right,
woman should look, right? And
right, right,
she
right. But you
doesn't,
have
and
to.
it's bad because children see good versus bad. They don't see,
Mm-hmm,
they see an either or.
mm-hmm,
They don't have the blurred lines like we get to be able to see as
mm-hmm.
adults.
And I'm thinking that young people entering the workforce, it's very different now for them too, because they have been involved with social media a lot. So do they have the skills? They might have less skills. What they call the soft skills. They may have less of those that they're entering the workforce with. And I think that that should be an advertisement for coaching someone. You're young, you're going into the workforce. You really need a professional person behind you, because
Yeah.
who do you turn to? Oftentimes you can't go home and turn to your family because they have no idea of that environment that you're in at work, and
Yeah.
they're just starting out. Their careers are just starting. And so, they have to move forward for so many years that they need definitely mentoring. I mean,
Absolutely.
it must be difficult. Um, Especially a lot of the work now is also very solitary. A lot of people work from home. A lot of young people work from home, or they work only part-time in an office. So there's not even that interconnectedness that goes on the way it
Yeah.
did before when you were in an office 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Not that there aren't any perks or anything um, that's inherently evil with staying home, but there is that lack of interaction. So that's why a lot of people go in part-time, but
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
that's
And
it.
I can speak to remote work actually.
Mhm.
I worked, I was a remote worker before remote work was cool.
Yes. Right, because you're in
So since,
technology. That's why.
yeah,
Yeah, nobody knows.
for since 2012, I
Hmm.
worked from a home office,
Hmm.
but I did go out and visit clients
Hmm.
at their particular sites
Hmm.
or did regular visits
Right.
up until COVID came along. We were
Hmm.
doing at least quarterly visits. But what I did, because I did miss that
Hmm.
interaction, that interpersonal reaction, I had joined an organization. So there's opportunities out there,
Hmm.
young folks join to where they're
Hmm.
getting out and seeing one another. And so you have a place where you can meet with one another. But yes, please don't just stay home and stay there
Right.
all day long, all evening long, because it does wear on you after a while.
Right.
I would find myself, very refreshed if I would, hadn't been to a
Hmm.
gathering in a while and then go out and I'm like, I didn't realize how much this, really
Yes, it's
meant
like a charged
because I
energy.
hadn't been.
Yes.
Yeah, in
Yes.
fact, 3 weekends ago, I did my first in-person training that I've done with the Radiant Leaders
Hmm.
program. Everything else has been virtual. And it was a great opportunity to be amongst a whole
Hmm.
bunch of different people and have that interaction
Hmm.
with them. And I
Yes.
realized, oh, have I missed this? Because of course, with COVID, we hadn't had the same opportunities to be
Right.
in front of people. And I said, I was just telling my coach, I've got to schedule some other
Hmm.
in-person
Hmm.
training sessions or offerings, because this is just something I've been really missing. And it really took that to really get me to see.
Yes. It's true because I just recently did a few things too. And of course, in person, there's an energy there. And it is
Oh, yeah.
true. Now, where are you located? And are you, so you're doing, so now you're beginning to do things in person. And where are you located? Are you in the United States?
I am. I'm in South Carolina, so
Okay.
I'm in between the capital of South Carolina, which is Columbia, and
Columbia. Yeah.
then Charlotte, North Carolina,
Hmm.
because they're a couple
Hmm.
hours from each other. So I'm in a very small town. It's called Heath Springs. Everybody goes, "Where's that?" Even people that live 20 miles away from me
Living.
go, "Where's that?" But that I can tell you was a big shift that
Hmm.
helped in all of this too, because I went from living in the big city, in
Hmm.
the Charleston, South Carolina area, which some people would say, well, that's not real big like New York or Los
No,
Angeles.
but it's big for South Carolina. Yes.
It is exactly and it's as
Hmm.
big influx of people, population, and so forth. And
Hmm.
even from working at home, just to go out to, to a doctor's appointment or
Hmm.
a grocery store
Yes.
would, it's like, wow, this is just too stressful. So we
Hmm.
made the decision to move to the country.
Hmm.
I've got fiber optic internet and 5 acres. I'm happy.
Yeah.
And
So
I can
that's,
still drive, drive
mhm,
wherever. If I need to go to Charlotte or one of the other big cities,
mhm,
Columbia or whatever, or down to Charleston, it's just a couple-hour drive,
mhm.
and I'm fine with that. And
So
and
you're
it's
doing
great.
your in person in South Carolina. Well, but then again, you're not that far from North Carolina either. So you're actually
Right.
beginning to offer, because that's what I wanted to ask you that I know.
Yes.
Well, first of all, you have a YouTube channel. That's where I actually watch your program, which, your show itself, but then you also have a program that you offer, correct, to people. It's
Yes.
your coaching program. And now you're starting to go out in person also. Like, do you have a website, or do you have a calendar of events, or how can people find out information about what you're doing and where they can contact you?
So if you go to my website, it's lisaberrytraining.com. So LISABERRY training, all is one word.com. And that has all the information on how to get in touch with me, what classes I'm offering, what's coming up. And then also I offer free coffee chats just with anybody if they want to sign up,
Oh,
just to see if we
nice.
might want to work
Right.
together, if I can be of
Hmm.
service. And then that's one thing that I do. I also am ramping up my master class. So that's what I've taught most recently, first
Hmm.
time in person. And so that's what I'm going to be doing, offering. And
Hmm.
I'm happy to fly anywhere to teach it, anywhere where I can
Hmm.
be of service.
Hmm.
If I can make it within my schedule, I'm happy to do it. The
Yes.
master class itself is about 2 hours long. So
Hmm.
it's palatable, if you will, because that's another thing. I teach some other leadership trainings, and we found that those were over the course of several days in person.
Yes.
And even that has been reduced
Hmm.
to being a 1 day event, because it's
Hmm.
just,
Hmm.
people just want
Right, because people
want the
have, right,
information
their
faster,
time is
and they have
limited.
other things
Yes.
going on.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then I also have a private Facebook group that
That's what I was
welcomes
going to ask
anybody in.
too. Because I'll
Yep.
put
I have
everything
a
in the description. A lot of the audience, they want to see everything in the description, and what URL can they click on, especially the young people. They want to go right to the source. So I like to list everything in the description, all of the groups, any social media, because some people like to look at the social media. So I'll list all of that. So you have a group on Facebook.
on Facebook. It's called Radiant Leaders. I do have my LinkedIn account. Of course, that's just my regular LinkedIn account, but
Hmm.
I keep in touch with people and post
Hmm.
on there as well.
Yes.
And but between the Leadership Hub, which is the Radiant Leaders
Hmm.
show, is on that on YouTube,
Yes.
and then the Facebook group, those are the big ones. And then of course the website is a great way to
Hmm.
get a hold of you right away. But
Right. And
I
it's,
love the opportunity working with other people, and to be able to see if there's something I can do to be of
mhm,
service, so that somebody else can benefit from the things
yes.
that I've learned.
Oh, yes. I mean, and now because we're getting out more, there's more opportunities coming about, even to collaborate, because oftentimes there are people. In fact, I earlier today, I just can I record more than one show a day.
Mhm.
And I spoke to somebody, and I'm connecting, she's in Florida, and I'm connecting her with two other people that I know in Florida that actually are doing events. And this woman would be perfect for them. So it does happen, we're collaborating
Yeah,
more and more, to
absolutely.
help each other out, to raise the bar for all of us, right? Because really, ultimately, that's what we want. Happy, healthy, right?
That's
Happy,
right.
healthy, thriving, radiant people. That's
Exactly.
that's what we're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So,
one of the things I'm actually looking at forward to the future, probably not till 2025 though, is maybe putting on either an in-person event, 1 day event, or maybe a 2 day event,
hmm
conference, summit,
hmm
retreat,
yes.
where I get like-minded folks like yourself
hmm
together, where we, have our own sessions and see if we can help a whole group of folks out.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's the
Oh,
thing I'm
that
looking
sounds
into.
great. That's
Yeah.
great. I mean, I was doing a lot of those here in New York prior to the pandemic, and then of course everything changed. But I did attend one in Florida recently. Somebody put a 4-day conference for International Women's Day. They did it for a 4-day weekend, and I went down to Florida, and it was wonderful to be in contact with other like-minded women. Actually, there were a couple of men who came because they did have massage therapists, and some of the men came to offer services. So it was a really nice chance to finally get back into
Mhm.
the in-person events. Yeah, I was thrilled. Are you going to Canada? Are you going to Canada or?
I was going to go, but unfortunately, from where I'm located to get home in time for a class that I'm going to
For
be
something else?
in on the Friday right after, I can't
Right, you
get
couldn't do it.
through without risking being
Mhm.
stuck and missing that
Yes.
instruction. So unfortunately, this time around,
Well,
I'll
those are
be
the right. Those are the situations of responsibility, right? Because it's
right.
already you can't let down the people, sure. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I know that. But that'd be lovely. I'd love, oh my gosh, any excuse to come to South Carolina.
There you go.
I
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I love South Carolina. I actually I was down, I was young when I had been down there, and if I would have found a job there, I would have never come back. But there were no jobs at the time when I had gone. Otherwise, I would have been living there many years ago. I always
Yeah.
loved South Carolina. It's a lovely place. So if you're going to do events, I will definitely come down.
All right.
That'd be
Go.
lovely. Yeah,
Yeah.
lovely to
I'll
have
look
to
to
have
it.
that. I'm hoping that now, people are moving around more, and we're having more conversations like this, shows like this, events like this, that more and more of us can collaborate. Um,
Yeah.
like I said,
Unfortunately,
that's
there's
what we
still a
need.
lot of, I think, fear, and I don't even know that it's so much of getting COVID or something.
Mm,
Um, is playing as much of a factor on a lot of people's minds is the fear from it all, right? That we're still
mhm.
holding on to
Right,
the
right,
fear
right. The
that something's
psychological
going to
fear. Yeah.
happen. And
hmm
it's understandable, absolutely
hmm
understandable. I just hope that folks can just, just start with something, like I said, just like
hmm
with anything, start with something small, and then they'll be able to
hmm
allow themselves that freedom to get back out there and enjoy again, and
hmm
instead of living in fear. I know
Right.
it's easy
I think you're absolutely
done,
right.
but I
Yeah,
hope
I know
so.
you're absolutely right that that's what it is. It's going to take a little bit of time, but but the smaller event, little by
Mhm.
little, and then even a day event. I know that they started already in the warmer weather with the outdoor events, and people are attending, not big crowds, but they are attending. So
Mhm.
eventually, hopefully, they'll be able to get back into everything, because it is that possible psychological fear that you don't know if something's coming again. And so
Right.
they just are treading lightly
Sure.
at this
Right.
time.
Absolutely.
So. But Lisa, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. I thank you. It was a wonderful conversation. I will definitely put all the information in the description, and hopefully we'll be able to speak soon again.
Yeah, absolutely, Marissa. It's my pleasure. I really appreciate. I'm honored that you had me on the show today. And yes, well, I
Oh,
know we'll
thank you.
talking again.
Thank you. Hopefully we'll speak soon. Have a wonderful afternoon.
You too. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.